So if you like weird, kind of gross books, this is definitely a good book. My camera turned off, but basically there is now human meat plantations, which I think is a very interesting concept. So this book is written by Agustina Bazterrica. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it's right there if you plan on reading this book. That sometimes bits won't make sense because of a translation issue. I really like the book. It's a slow read if you're not into this kind of literature. For me, it was, at least. But I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was very weird in a good way. So if you like weird, kind of gross books, this is definitely a good book. It's in the horror section. I wouldn't really consider this horror. I consider it more almost like a psychological book. The book starts with kind of explaining a little bit of backstory, not only of Marcos, how this everything came into be. Hear about how people first reacted to this disease and how it caused complete chaos. We hear about Marcos's past, which was definitely not easy. And this book, I think it goes into really good detail because in these chapters, it does explain the killing and the consumption of humans, which I think is very interesting. Now, a little bit about Marcos. Marcos grew up butchering animals, so it was no surprise when he went into this business because at the time it was very difficult to find people to go into the business of butchering humans. And the select few who did were considered not well, but they weren't judged by the public because that's what the public ate. Marcos, even though he worked at the plant and basically he wasn't a manager, but he was high up in the plant considering his level of expertise prior to the whole outbreak. He's vegan. In this world, he's vegan. He doesn't eat meat and he doesn't tell people the real reason is because he's not interested in eating human meat. Obviously, he tells people it's just because he's on a diet or whatever. I'm not gonna do too many spoilers. More towards the end, I'll let you know what time to skip to because I will be going over a few spoilers. I'm actually just going to explain the book in its entirety for people who just don't want to read it but want to know what it's about, maybe, because I could see this being a project because this is a good book. So why did my voice change? That's pretty much, I think, the overall outline of the book. Quick summary without spoilers. This book follows a man named Marcos through this dystopian world. He's high up in a human plantation where they breed humans specifically for human consumption. We follow him through navigating and watching these people who are bred for human consumption, and we follow him with a closer relationship with someone that was specifically meant for human consumption. We watch him go through his personal struggles in his personal life with his wife/ex-wife. It's very complicated. With his family, particularly his sister. We see him struggle in the workplace, trying to keep it on the down low that he doesn't care and also does care. And let me just say, the twist at the end, huge, okay, gigantic. It's fucking nuts. I'm gonna start spoilers now, so if you want to skip to this timestamp, go right ahead because I'm about to start spoiling the book. Okay, stayed because you don't really care about reading it, or you just want to get through it quickly, or you've lost interest halfway through and you just want to know what happens at the end. Totally understandable. Here's what happens. So of course this book starts out with Marcos. His family life was hard. His father is struggling with dementia. He's currently in a home. His mother is gone, and his sister and him have a rocky relationship. His sister doesn't really contribute to his father's care in any way, shape, or form. He definitely had a rough childhood with his father, but he loves his father nonetheless. They do have a special bond, which I think is pretty cool. We see Marcos go through a little thing with animals. Most people in this dystopian world are afraid of animals due to them carrying diseases. This disease can only be caught by consuming the animal, but also by bites. If, the birds attack, because that's a main problem. People in this world walk around with umbrellas out of fear of being attacked by a bird on the street. Marcos is not really afraid of that problem. Marcos is actually still connected with animals. A place that Marcos frequently goes to is an abandoned zoo. It's of course abandoned, and he just goes and he walks around. We see him account a lot of old memories of going to the zoo with his father and watching all the animals, when in reality he's just looking at empty cages and exhibits. A special scene that definitely sticks in my brain is when Marcos found I think it was 3 baby wolf cubs in the reptile area of the zoo, and he formed a special bond with these puppies, and they're almost like dogs to him. They're like his personal pets. But later on in the story, unfortunately, these 3 teenage boys end up hurting and killing the dogs, which is horrible, and I did cry. It's not necessarily a sad book. It's sad. The end is gut-wrenching, not just because it's just so insane how this book ends. But anyways, I digress. So there's a specific few chapters, chapter or 3, I'm not really quite sure, but they need a new employee. So there's 2 candidates, and he is in charge of taking them on a tour and assessing them while on this tour to see who would be the best candidate. And this part I feel is the most interesting because this is where you see the nitty-gritty of the whole plantation. First, we are brought through the cages where the humans, that they're not called humans in this book, these special meats are kept while still alive. And this is basically a time where, how they describe it is, once they're first transferred off the truck, any who are still alive and unharmed go into the cages. The rest are given out to scavengers, which I'll talk about a little more later. But they go into their own separate cages, and this is a time where they calm down, as anxious meats tends to be more tense and not as delicious, according to the book. And basically, over this time period, the humans are kind of just sitting there now. These humans express very animalistic tendencies due to the lack of education they have. These humans have their vocal cords cut out to keep from making them scream or cry or whatever, which would just be, according to these people, I'm gonna say this and it's gonna sound so fucking horrible, but this is from the book's perspective, okay? I don't actually mean it this way, but the people in the book would find that screaming and that crying annoying, and it would also stress out the other humans around there, so they just kind of snip the cords off. They are also not taught proper etiquette, so the women will poop and pee all around their separate cages. They're kept in separate areas because the men and women, when they mate, are very animalistic about it. When we normally think of intimacy, we think of sweet, whatever, just pleasurable. They don't think about it like that. In this society, the humans that are meant to be consumed, if they breed together, it's more of the purpose of bringing new life, much like it is for other animals. We start to see these people go into the actual process of being killed and harvested for every part of them. What first happens is they bring the human down. Keep in mind, all of these humans are naked. They are not clothed, which I just think is kind of interesting, with a bunch of these people just kind of walking around looking at naked versions of themselves and seeing them as lesser beings than them. I just think that's weird. These people get special contraptions around their necks. I'm sure I'm skipping a few parts by accident, so I apologize in advance, but they get these contraptions around their necks and around their wrists and their feet. They go into this room. Now there's a specific scene of a specific guy doing this job. This job that he's doing is to knock out people unconscious. Not to kill them, because killing them like that leads to an unpleasant taste, supposedly. So his job is to calmly kill these people. So we don't exactly know what the trick is. It kind of sucks because we never find it out. But he speaks to these people before he hits them over the head. He speaks to them very calmly, with a smile on his face, and everything he says seems to put these people at ease. He has these people turn around. He takes a club and he hits them on the back of the head perfectly to knock them out. And then this contraption pulls them up by their feet and brings them into the next room. This next room is probably the grossest room. This next room, basically, as soon as this person enters hanging by their feet, their throat is slit. This is what does ultimately end up killing them. After that, they are harvested for everything they had: their skin, the meat on their bones, their organs, every single thing. And almost everything is eaten. Some things more of a delicacy than others, such as the brain and the heart are specifically eaten more as a delicacy, like how people in other countries will eat monkey brain or pig's heart, things like that. And then the carcass sent to a specific room to get skinned. And I'm pretty sure they use the skin as a type of leather, since they can no longer use cow's leather, because that will also have people contract the virus. And basically throughout this whole chapter, when we see these two people kind of going in and watching all of this, we see one man who is very, of course, indifferent to the whole thing, watching living human beings get murdered and used for all of their organs. And then another man who's fascinated by all of this, who has so many questions and who is excited to be watching these people get killed. And ultimately, Marcos ends up going with the man who's very indifferent, knowing that those who are way too invested in this line of work are psychos and aren't meant to be in this line of work, because they're very unpredictable and you don't know how they're going to react when it comes to the actual killing of these people. Next, we're going to move into the scavengers portion, which I mentioned earlier. So the people who are unfit for consumption are thrown out to the scavengers. The scavengers are basically people who have gone rogue. The human meat industry is a very expensive industry. Human meat costs a lot of money so that they can keep the handful of employees that they have. And so scavengers are people who are unable to afford this meat and who basically live off the map. They come in groups and they live amongst themselves, and they typically live near plantations so that they have easier access to their food. And to keep the scavengers at bay, they will throw out humans to keep them from trying to infiltrate the plantation and eat perfectly good meat. Very, very gruesome. They throw these humans out and these humans try their best to run, but they're not taught to run. And eventually, the scavengers get them and they eat them while they're still alive. Another thing is scavengers, they hunt. And now that people can't hunt actual animals, they choose to hunt humans. This is also a very, very expensive industry, more expensive than the meat industry. And these people will even use celebrities. And the way they tempt people into coming into this industry is, number one, by asking normal people, normal citizens who walk the streets and who have possibly consumed human meat. These individuals, they ask to join this hunt, and the reward is if they survive a certain amount of days, they get to live, and they also get a large sum of money. And if they don't live, then obviously they're consumed, they're eaten, they're hung up as trophies like we do with deers. Marcos goes to meet with this particular man who hunts for a living. He gets to choose, he buys a certain category of people from the plant to be hunted, such as pregnant women. Pregnant women are desired for hunt because they are more aggressive, they are more passionate, they have more animalistic behaviors due to their motherly instincts. They feel the need to protect the baby inside them, hence they have a sort of enhanced mental state that provides more of an exhilarating experience. They also choose, of course, bigger, stronger men and women who are more built for running and being caught. And then there's, of course, the people, and we see celebrities actually get involved in this, not real life celebrities, but in-book celebrities, because they fall off and their last resort to gain the money and wealth they once had is going into one of these deathly experiences, and they ultimately get killed, and those are definitely hung up as trophies because these humans are one of a kind. Okay, next we're going to talk about Marcos's human. So this human I'm going to be referring to as Jasmine, as that's what Marcos later names her. But at first she doesn't have a name. So someone from the plantation gifts Marcos a purebred. A purebred is a specific type of human that doesn't have any chemicals and it's just purely bred and is supposed to be one of the finest meats you can get. And she is given to Marcos as a gift. Marcos doesn't know what to do with this human. He can't set her free. He can't eat her, as his beliefs don't make him not want to consume her. And there's nothing for him to really use her for. And whatever he ends up doing with her, he has to sign off on it that he ate her or that he sold her, things like that. So he doesn't really know what to do. So instead he brings her to the back and goes into a barn and keeps her in a barn. She's very calm. She's of course scared, but she's actually very beautiful. And Marcos later comes to realize this. Now, this kind of attraction that he feels for her is very taboo, very, very unprecedented in this world. There are instances in plantations where men, the women who are kept in these cages, and these men are not prosecuted for the of these humans. They are just fired and they are not welcome back at any human plantation, which is so insane to me. That's the minimum consequence. I understand you don't view them as human anymore, but I mean, we don't even let people do that to cows and pigs and other animals, and you're just gonna fire them? Crazy to me. Anyways, romantic relationships between human and meat are banned. They're taboo. No nos, okay? So he tries to push off this attraction he feels towards Jasmine. Through the book, we see him get closer with Jasmine. She cannot speak because her vocal cords have been cut like all the others. And she's just very dog-like, in the sense that she's friendly, she's kind, she's very loyal, and she gets excited when she sees Marcos. She does not run from him even when she has the chance to, and she in fact is drawn to him. Later on, we see Marcos give in to his temptations, and he does sleep with Jasmine. Later on in the story, Jasmine ends up becoming pregnant with Marcos's baby. Marcos, previously with his wife, lost their child. It was unexpected and unavoidable, and through this tough death, they ended up separating. They are not fully divorced. They are still together in this book, but they aren't in close contact. They call every once in a while, but besides that, we don't hear much from her. Later on through the book, we see him truly start to care about Jasmine in more of a human way, and we see him care for her and the baby. He cares for her very sweetly, very childlike, reads her stories, puts on shows, keeps her entertained while he's gone out work at the day. He sets up a baby monitor in the room to watch her throughout the day in case anything comes up. One day, he's at home and he gets a call. It's his day off and he's with Jasmine, and he gets a call, and there is a huge situation at the plant. He rushes over. A truck coming in with dozens and dozens of humans for consumption has been tipped by scavengers. They are animalistically consuming these humans. They end up killing the driver of the truck, and they kill every human besides the few that got away. This is huge, and everyone at the plant's devastated, not only at the loss of merchandise, but the loss of a co-worker. As I said, the driver was killed and consumed. They end up killing a lot of scavengers, and hopefully the mass killing of these scavengers would keep them at bay for a bit, but they were very devastated by this, and this is a big point in the book. Anyways, he goes home to find that Jasmine's water has broken, and Jasmine is about to give labor. But when her water breaks, it's a greenish color, and it's just not right. His ex-wife is a doctor, and so he has to call her. He has no other choice. He can't call an actual doctor and tell them that this animal with their eyes he has impregnated and is about to give birth, because it's illegal. He calls her, she comes, and she's just disgusted with Marcos. She keeps saying, how could you do this to her? Like, all this stuff. And then she looks down at the state of Jasmine, and she knows she has to deliver this baby. Marcos steps out of the room, and she lets him do her thing, and the baby is born healthy and alive. This part's like hard for me. Like, this part is where I cry. The baby's alive, and Marcos and his wife connect because the baby looks just like their lost baby. And so they decide that that baby is theirs. Jasmine gets the baby ripped from her arms. Marcos comes and gets her, goes to comfort her, brings her out back, and hits her over the head, killing her. And that's how this book ends, with Jasmine dead, without her baby, who she struggled so hard to get. in the book, which was really heartbreaking. And Marcos and his wife back together with Jasmine's baby. Back to the non-spoiler part. Very good book. I had to rate this book about a 6 out of 10. It was hard for me to get through, but it overall had a good plot, had good character development. I enjoyed the storyline. I enjoyed the concept. Very interesting concept. And I would recommend it. And I mean, I wouldn't say it's boring. Like, no part of this is boring. Each part has its unique attention grabbers to it. It's just me personally, I find it hard to get through these kind of books. But I liked it. So I would recommend you read it if you didn't just watch all the spoilers. Even if you did, if you find out that you're interested, you can go read it. See how everything I said plays out in more detail. There's of course some parts I didn't mention. But that is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. I will do more book reviews, but this is not what my channel is based around. It's going to be, as I said, a mix of different things. It's going to be vlogs, skincare, makeup, outfits, books, video games, just everyday stuff. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you do get the chance to read Tender is the Flesh. And make sure you like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any requests on books to either read or review. Most of the books you see here I have not read yet. The next book I think I'm going to review is The Silent Patient, because I think that's also a very interesting book to review. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!